Hello and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Anthony Kraus, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you have joined us for the Clean Energy Metals Conference. Our next presentation is from Alaska Energy Metals. Please note, you can submit questions for the presenter in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings through the Schedule Meetings tab found on the conference platform. At this point, I am very pleased to welcome Greg Beischer, President and Chief Executive Officer of Alaska Energy Metals, which trades on the OTCQB venture market under the symbol AKEMF and on the TSXV under the symbol AEMC. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you, sir. Glad to be here. Well, welcome everybody. I'll jump right into my presentation. You've got a view here of the deposit of nickel that we've discovered in central or interior Alaska. It's not just nickel. There's other critical and strategic metals that go with the deposit, but nickel is the dominant metal and value creator within the deposit. We're a new company, less than 2 years old, but my personal history in this project goes back a long way. In fact, it goes back to 1995, when, as a young geologist, I was assigned by Inco, the big nickel company out of Sudbury, Ontario, Canada, that sent me to Alaska to explore this particular area. And we discovered nickel. But at the time, it was not of a high enough concentration to keep Inco interested. But nevertheless, I stayed on, explored all over the state. I've made my home here for 30 years now. And all of a sudden, a couple of years ago, I was able to reacquire the mineral rights to the Nikolai project that is the flagship for the company now. And I think we've got a fantastic start for only 18 months of work. It is an opportunity to invest at an early stage, and the timing could be really good. Nickel and other energy-related or clean metals are going to be very, very important and in great demand going forward. A company you could compare us to is Canada Nickel. They are several years ahead of us, but with a very similar deposit. They count their market value at around 175 million today, and we're at around 30. So I think we're going to catch up in terms of the size and concentration of our deposit, and maybe on market cap too. We've got a great start with a resource in the ground. Just about half of it is at the higher confidence indicated level, and the remainder at the inferred level. 3.9 billion pounds of nickel in the indicated category, 4.2 in inferred. And I'll let you add that up. It comes out to over 8 billion pounds of nickel documented in the ground. So it's a big deposit already, and with a few more drill holes, it will be as big as Canada Nickel's deposit. And so why nickel? Nickel's main use has always been for the manufacture of stainless steel. Just alloy a bit of nickel and chromium with iron, and you've got beautiful stainless steel that's used ubiquitously throughout the world. But it's a really amazing metal. It's got all kinds of special uses, used in aerospace, defense applications, and amazingly, it makes great electric vehicle battery components. It's the metal that gives the high energy density that allows EV batteries to have the range. And there's a lot of nickel in every one of these. And every single battery, there's 29 kilos or 64 pounds of nickel on average. And this is a whole new use for the metal on a large scale. So the demand predictions for nickel consumption in the coming decades is really quite astounding. And I know that nickel's a pretty hard metal to find. So I think it's going to become in great demand. But you think with that demand that the price of nickel will be ramping up quickly, but it's being static or even gone down because Indonesia, the biggest producer of nickel in the world, has been able to ramp up production with the help of China. And they're flooding the market right now with nickel. It's a bit unfortunate because that nickel has a very high carbon footprint, and they don't follow the same standards for environmental protection. So it's unfortunate to be using that nickel in an electric vehicle battery, and I think we'll be getting away from that as a society. And I don't think Indonesia can keep pumping out nickel the way it has been, and that will start the price to rise again. And it's already on its way up. But certainly, I think our country, the United States, is vulnerable. It's at risk for supply chain disruption because so much of supply of metals is locked down, particularly by the Chinese. And on this chart from the Department of Energy, all those metals on the upper right corner, shown in red, are absolutely crucial for electric vehicle production. And so if there's a big supply disruption, it's really going to disrupt electric vehicles and energy transition generally. So, it's not just electric vehicles, but nickel is used in quite an array of batteries, whether it's your phone, your laptop, or large-scale grid storage batteries. So it's going to be really, really important. We are at risk, and so it's important that the United States has a secure domestic supply of critical and strategic metals, and nickel in particular. They rate nickel and lithium as those as being the most important, but also at risk for electrification. So that's why having our project in Alaska is on American soil is a great thing. We've got a super team of people. I feel very well prepared going into the more advanced exploration stages. We've been together as a long time. Most of us are Alaskans and are very well versed in Alaska geology, politics, and people. We know how to get the job done here. And certainly, our board of directors has great strength too, both on the permitting side. Ms. Fahey previously was the mine permitter at the state level as Commissioner of Natural Resources. Mark Begich, a former U.S. Senator that represented our state in Washington, D.C., and then on the capital markets side as well, we've got people with great track records that know how to bring capital to the company. So this is the basics of the company, 118 million shares outstanding at the moment. It trades very, very well, particularly in the United States as well, even though it's a TSX venture exchange company, which do trade on the OTC, and the volume is quite strong. So our share price is on the uptick. We're active now, and I think people are anticipating drill results that'll be coming in the fall. Yeah, so the project's in a great location, just a couple hours drive on paved highways south of Fairbanks. I live here in Anchorage. It's roughly a 6-hour drive to the project from my home. Zooming in a bit closer, here's the Alaska Highway coming from Canada. Delta Junction is the closest town, kind of a transportation hub. And then the two claim blocks, Canwell and Eureka, which comprise the Nikolai project, are adjacent to the highway and readily accessible. Zooming in further, here's the Canwell block where we just completed a program of drilling to test some very high-grade targets. There's some high-grade nickel mineralization exposed right at surface here that we've tested. But here on the Eureka claim block, we have discovered and established a very large deposit of nickel with copper, chrome, cobalt, platinum, and palladium as well. So zoomed in now right to the central part of the Eureka zone. And the outline here is the conceptual open pit, the edge of the pit. The colors within it represent the concentration of mineralization in the ground. And so these pink and purple and red colors indicate the higher portion or grade portions of the deposit. So you can see right here in the middle is stronger mineralization. And this keeps going in both directions and down further into the earth as well. So it's open. We know we can make this deposit bigger, and we're going to, but we're also really going to concentrate on this higher grade zone. But independent consultant Stantec did this resource evaluation for us, calculated a mineral resource estimate. Part of it is at the higher confidence indicated level. That'd be the part circled in blue. There's over 3.8 billion, almost 3.9 billion pounds of nickel in that area with substantial copper and cobalt and millions of ounces of platinum and palladium and even a little bit of gold. The rest of the deposit is known at the inferred resource level, lower confidence level, but there's a lot of it, 4.2 billion pounds of nickel. And so as we increase our drill hole density across the deposit, these inferred resources will move up into the indicated category. I'm just going to show you a cross-section right through the middle of the deposit. And so this is a vertical slice through the earth. This is the surface of the earth here. This black line is the conceptual open pit that would be extracted probably after 30 or more years of mining. And remember, the pink and purple and red colors are the higher grade portions of the deposit. If we'd mined for over 30 years, we'd have to remove this waste rock here. And that would give us about a 1.5 to 1 stripping ratio. That's the ratio of waste rock we'd have to remove to ore. But you can imagine in the early years that we would be mining just near surface here, maybe a few hundred feet from surface, and that all of that mining would be in ore and all in the higher grade portion of the deposit. And that would really help with the economics of the project. I've had a question pop up about whether we could access any government grant funding, and we certainly have applied for grants through the Department of Defense and the Defense Production Act. We've noticed other companies getting strong inputs of funding. For example, Graphite One, a project here in Alaska, received well over $30 million from the Department of Defense to perform a feasibility study on their project. We saw another one last week, Electra Metals, with a project in Canada, get a $20 million grant for a cobalt refinery. So certainly there is money available. I think our project definitely will meet their requirements. We've got numerous critical and strategic metals in this deposit that certainly could supply a substantial amount of these metals to the U.S. And having that financial support would accelerate our timeline, certainly, and probably be transformative for the company. Thanks for the question. This is what the deposit looks like. It's a dark black rock. This is a core sample from the central part of the deposit, and you can see just little disseminations of nickel and copper sulfides sort of evenly spread throughout the rock. And this would be from the central core zone, the higher grade zone. It's about 0.25% nickel with contributions from the other metals. And if you equivalize those metals to nickel, you'd come up with a grade of 0.42% nickel equivalent. And this is not a particularly high grade. It is high amongst our peers of similar deposits, but it's a very homogeneous deposit, very continuous, thick and large. I should have pointed out on the cross-section, the thickness of the deposit is substantial. That's 300 meters true width, or 900 feet. So it's a big deposit, and big mining companies, therefore, like that multi-decade mine life, and the homogeneity is great because they know then the value of every shovelful of ore that comes out of the ground. The recovery rates of metals is going to be very important, and we've started doing the first bench scale testing to determine how much of those disseminated metals that are in the rock would be recoverable, and what are the best concentrates to make. It'll be important to know where the precious metals, platinum and palladium, partition. Do they go with the nickel? Do they go with the copper sulfide? And do we get all of them back in the typical circuits? Additionally, though we haven't included it yet, the deposit contains chromium and iron, and it's possible that we'll be able to make a concentrate that includes those metals as well. So here's what we're going to do at the Eureka deposit at Nikolai. We're going to drill a minimum of 2 holes, hopefully 3, to extend that higher grade portion of the deposit off to the southeast. And we can say almost with certainty that we'll be successful in this. We have here high-grade surface samples collected by our geologists. So we're pretty sure it comes right through there. And there's a historical hole and another historical hole. So if we were to drill a series of 3 holes, that would add some really serious tonnage to the deposit, and would be the higher grade tonnage, which should therefore increase the overall grade of the deposit. So that's money well spent for 3 holes, probably in the order of $1 million of direct drilling cost. We can add a lot to the deposit, and that work is ongoing right now. And if we're successful, we could significantly increase our deposit. So it's plotting on the chart up here somewhere, up close to one of our peers, Canada Nickel. And so what's represented here is a selection of similar projects in North America. And the blue bar represents total metal in the ground at each project. Lighter blue is the nickel only component. And the red dot indicates the concentration of metal stated on a nickel equivalent basis. And so you can see we're at the upper end of this group of peers in terms of concentration. We're already this big, but with a few more drill holes, we'll be up close to our peer Canada Nickel, who's valued right now at about 175 million. Those guys have done a great job. They're several years ahead of us. They've attracted strategic partners, some really interesting ones. Agnico Eagle, which previously has been sort of a gold-centric, gold-only company. Anglo American, who's an experienced nickel mining company, and then Samsung, an end consumer of nickel. Samsung's building battery plants all over North America, and they wanted to secure a supply of the metals they need for their plants. So I think that it's likely that we'll see strategic investments from other companies at some point in the next 12 to 18 months. And whenever that happens, it's a really good endorsement of the company. And we look forward to having those partners that can bring so much to the table in terms of heavy lifting on capital and on expertise and some things that we may not have. Our group is geologists. We can take this project quite far, but as it gets closer to mine permitting, then we'll need strategic partners to help us. So we know we have this enormous lower concentration bulk tonnage Eureka deposit, but we, as I mentioned, at the Canwell block, that's the one right beside the highway, we have indications of very, very rich, high-grade, massive sulfide nickel occurrences. This piece of rock was collected right from surface over here at the Canwell prospect. And last year, we did all the surface surveys needed to develop very compelling drill targets. And we've just completed testing at the Emmerich, the Odie, and Canwell occurrences. And so investors can look forward to seeing assay results roll out over the fall months. Here's an example of the Odie prospect, a cross section. There's the surface of the earth. The pink dots are places where our geologists have collected very high-grade samples. These are geophysical results. The pink and purple tells us that there's conductive metals in the ground. Nickel sulfide is conductive and it is magnetic. We've got a coincident magnetic high. So we've drilled this hole through the zone to test for massive nickel sulfides, and those results will be published later in the fall. Yeah, so we're right on time. We delivered our first resource calculation in March. We've done our mineralogical studies that'll feed into the metallurgical studies that'll be completed by the end of this year. We're drilling now. We'll increase the size of the resource, announce that resource estimate increase by February of next year. And I would think at that point, we'll know whether we're going to get government grant funding. And I suspect that we'll have good interest from major companies that would be strategic partners. We do have a secondary project in Quebec, a great jurisdiction in which to explore and to explore for nickel. We're in the early stages. We're quite active right now, doing the first steps, soil sampling at surface and airborne geophysical survey. And those results will come out through the fall, and we'll look forward to drilling the first targets on that project next year. Nikolai is the flagship right now. So there's a number of things that can make our share price increase from here at a current value of around 15 cents US or 20 cents Canadian. And yeah, we should add significantly to our Eureka deposit, show that it's going to be at least as big as Canada Nicholas Crawford and a higher grade, and maybe we'll catch up not just on size and grade, but on market cap too. And we certainly have the potential to find a high grade massive sulfides at the Canwell block. And I think an investment by a strategic investor or government grant funding would certainly um, be a catalyst, be very meaningful, in fact, probably transformative for the company. So we look forward to that. But right now, a great entry point to pick up a few shares of the company. So that wraps it up. There's one more question that's come in here. How much will it cost to develop the Nikolai project? And we haven't calculated that yet. It's necessary first to really get our arms all the way around the deposit. We need to fully delineate it, find the limits, calculate the resource, and then within that, calculate the smaller, higher grade resources. And once we've got that information in hand, it'd be possible to calculate the development costs and calculate the other costs so next year I anticipate that we would do a preliminary economic assessment that includes all those variables, and then in subsequent years move to a full-blown feasibility study. But I think it's safe to say that a large-scale project like this will cost in the billions. The capital cost is likely to be measured in billions of dollars. So it would be a very substantial project that could provide a very substantial amount of money or metal for the United States. And so it's probably a project that's only for some of the bigger mining companies in the world. And that's why we look forward to making those initial strategic partners with mining companies that really would have the depth, capacity, and capability to put a very large mining operation into production. But it's early days yet, so we do need to keep in mind what the costs are, but we're not at the point yet that makes it easy to come up with those costs. It's just estimates for now. Okay, well, I don't see any more questions, and so